right, let's turn to the fascinating dust-up this week between the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, who you don't see come out that often in this kind of a situation, and the President of the United States over Mr. Obama's criticism of the Supreme Court, and you can see it right there during the State of the Union speech. Bill, was it inappropriate? And more interestingly, why, and you saw it again today with Robert Gibbs, why is the White House so eager to join this fight?
Well, they disagree with the ruling, and they want to work with Congress to legislatively overturn those parts of the ruling that could be overturned legislatively. Part of it is constitutional. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on this. I think using the State of the Union with these justices sort of captive down there isn't quite appropriate. On the other hand, I've got to say, judges and lawyers are awfully hypersensitive to any criticism, and God forbid one should criticize, justices in all their regal majesty for getting something wrong. Presidents are entitled to say that and to think that. Congressmen are. They have an equal obligation to interpret the Constitution and to act according to it. And citizens are entitled to criticize justices and lawyers. And I do think the whole legal profession has gotten a little bit full of itself. Maybe it always was. And any criticism of them, I have a slight self-interest in maybe making this case, having been involved in a little dust-up with lawyers recently. But they have an awfully they do tend to take any criticism as a sort of lèse-majesté, and in that respect, I sort of admire the president for taking on the lawyers.
Mara, do you think these reports are right that the White House is trying to, first of all, capitalize on what they see as overwhelming political support for the president's position? Corporations shouldn't be putting money into supporting candidates, and also trying to lay a marker for the next Supreme Court nominee fight?
I think that's part of it. The next Supreme Court nominee fight is going to be really, really tough, no matter what, and it always was going to be. I think there is not a lot of upside for the White House to prolong a knockdown, drag-out fight with the Supreme Court. I think that they've made their point. Chief Justice Roberts has made his point, and probably it's a good idea to not continue. I think it's fine to make the point about the law and what they disagree with. But it's probably not a good idea to keep it going. As far as the inappropriateness of the State of the Union comment, John Podesta pointed out this earlier before we went on the air, is that Ronald Reagan made it pretty clear that he disagreed with Roe versus Wade and with the court at the time and how they ruled on that. So it's not completely without precedent.
Of course, that was about 9 years later.
But they
no, they had just reaffirmed it.
And he attacked that decision
they had just reaffirmed it.
So what is your argument, that this is fair game?
Well, look, I think it's a little disingenuous. I don't think Chief Justice Roberts felt too bad when he was at President Bush's pep rallies. But I would actually offer him a compromise, which is the Supreme Court stop going to the State of the Union, and in exchange, they start broadcasting on C-SPAN or otherwise, their decision, so that when they issue a decision reversing 100 years of precedent, let all this corporate money flow into the political system, do it on television so the American people can see.
Dana's shaking her head. Dana, let me end this. You're a Fox News contributor. We want the Supreme Court on television.
I know that you do, but I'm more of a traditionalist. Like, I think that what President Obama did when he practiced and rehearsed a speech that would go after guests of his at his State of the Union address, that it did not cast President Obama in the best light, and he would have been better served by staff who said this is not the right thing to do. And in addition to that, if you're going to attack the Supreme Court, you probably want to get your facts straight if you're a constitutional lawyer, and that's why Justice Alito mouthed the words "not true," and that's why we are still talking about this almost 2 months later.
So, but your feeling is that they should not be criticizing court decisions?
I think that
they're sort
it's
of
fine to
criticism?
disagree, but remember, one of the left's great issues is judicial independence and respect for the Supreme Court. If President Obama had wanted to make a big show about disagreeing with the decision, I think what he could have done is called the White House press conference, which he hasn't held since last July, led the briefing with it. Or he could have done it at the Rose Garden. Or he could have done something to get news without having to attack them while they're sitting there.
See, John, what you will learn on these panels is you can get in a side shot with a little, with a little shave.